Okay, cue dramatic music. Here is the latest spread for my pop-up book about the shows of my youth that were my favorites. And this one is dramas. So we have some drama going on here with this stupid V-fold at the back, which is just not cooperating. I guess I just don't know how to build those. So what we have, where shall we start? So here we have a hospital. These are all the medical dramas. Let's see what this says about medical shows. I wrote long before later favorites St. Elsewhere, Chicago Hope, and ER. The TV airwaves of my youth offered popular medical dramas: Ben Casey, Dr. Kildare, Medical Center, and Marcus Welby, MD. Heartthrob doctors were the prescription, get it? Namely Chad Everett, Richard Chamberlain, James Brolin, and Vince Edwards, with their wise cohorts assisting. And so what we have here is Dr. Kildare, that was on NBC from 1961 through 1966. And we have Raymond Massey was Dr. Leonard Gillespie. And of course, Richard Chamberlain was Dr. James Kildare. And in this nice hospital I have, with a helipad, I might add, we have Ben Casey. Ben Casey was on ABC from 1961 through 66. And we had Dr. David Zorba, played by Sam Jaffe, might remember him, and Vince Edwards, who played Dr. Ben Casey. Then over here we had the more folksy Marcus Welby and his less folksy assistant James Brolin, and their ever-faithful Consuelo. That was on ABC from 69 through 76. And that was Robert Young, who played Dr. Marcus Welby. James Brolin was Dr. Stephen Kiley, and Elena Verdugo was Consuelo Lopez. And we have a little ambulance near the emergency exit. A little bit of a cityscape. And then we had Medical Center. Medical Center was on CBS from 1969 through 76. And the two main characters in that were Dr. Paul Lochner, played by James Daly, and of course, Chad Everett played Dr. Joe Gannon. So those were the medical shows. Pretty interesting and fun back then. And then I also really liked the FBI with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. And so we have a little tab here. If it gets flattened, I have Lift Me. It's the poor person's way of doing a pop-up. The FBI was on ABC from 65 through 74. Hearing the familiar opening, a Quinn Martin production, we knew it was time for suave Inspector Louis Erskine, played by Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., to solve cases based on real FBI files. That was pretty cool. And then one of my, well, these are all my favorites, but we certainly liked The Fugitive, too. The Fugitive, a doctor wrongly convicted for murdering his wife, escapes custody to pursue the real culprit, the one-armed man, narrowly avoiding recapture by the ever-persistent police lieutenant. So that was on from 1963 through 1967. And I have this, The Fugitive, some fingerprints on a pull tab, and these little guys with magnifying glasses saying, "Who did it?" Because as I recall, we were never entirely sure doctor was pretty sure it was the one-armed man, but of course, that's part of what the show was about. So if we pull this out, we have the three main players. David Jansen was Dr. Richard Kimball. Barry Morse was Lieutenant Philip Gerard. And Bill Raish was the one-armed man, Fred Johnson. It's a great series. And it was a great movie after the fact. With, in more recent years, I think Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones were in it, maybe. And of course, we have The Man from U.N.C.L.E. That was on NBC from 64 through 68. Secret Agents, Napoleon Solo, Robert Vaughn, and Ilya Kuryakin, David McCallum, Underboss Mr. Waverly, Leo G. Carroll, worked for the global spy organization U.N.C.L.E., the United Network Command for Law and Enforcement, to thwart evil plots to conquer the world by their primary adversary, Thrush. And there's debate out in the fandom communities about whether Thrush stood for anything, but the original creators said no. So here are our two main guys with their logo. I think I had a poster of David McCallum in my bedroom. He was in Tiger Beat and quite a heartthrob back then. Here's their logo as well. I tried to do a different mechanism for this, but it failed miserably, so I gave up. So we have a little lift me tab with three main guys. There's the Mr. Waverly boss, Leo G. Carroll. And here are our two agents in their lab and dressed to the nines. That was The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And we have just a fun fact. It goes with all of these, of course, but Quinn Martin produced 20 television movies and created more than 15 series. Most notably the crime dramas The Untouchables, The Fugitive, which we just covered, The FBI, which we covered, Cannon, The Streets of San Francisco, and Barnaby Jones. And of those, I also really liked The Streets of San Francisco, but that really came later, so it's not covered in this book. And then we have Mission Impossible. I wish I could sing. Anyway, come on, focus camera. So we have some cassette tape and this cover that's protected with a corner, so I can undo it with one hand. Holding my camera since I could get closer than if I have it on the tripod. So Mission Impossible. I can do this, maybe. All right, Mission Impossible was on CBS from 66 through 73. An elite covert operations unit of the IMF, Impossible Missions Force, carries out highly sensitive missions subject to official denial in the event of failure, death, or capture. The main cast members are shown in pictures to the left, but later seasons also included Leonard Nimoy, which I had forgotten, and Leslie Ann Warren, whom I do remember. They were replacements for Bain and Landau when they left, and Sam Elliott was also on a couple of seasons. Memorable quotes are "Your mission, should you decide to accept," and "This tape will self-destruct." So here we have one of the typical tapes, and if there are any children watching this, that's something we used to have to play music on. We're old. So what we have here is if we pull on the, I kind of need to hold this while I pull, but if we pull on this tape, then we get the pictures of the guys. So the first one is Peter Graves. He played Jim Phelps. He was the director of the IMF who chose the missions and often impersonated key figures or various tradesmen to infiltrate target organizations. I loved him. He was also on Fury, which will be on my, it's about a horse. It will be on my honorable mention page. And a fun fact that he is actually brothers to James Arness, who was Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke. So, little known fact, perhaps. And then we have, love this waterfall mechanism. I've never used it from the side before, but obviously it works just as well. So here we have Barbara Bain, who played Cinnamon Carter. Cinnamon Carter, did I spell that right? Yes. A femme fatale, who played on the vanities of powerful men to lower their defenses. And Martin Landau, who was Roland Hand. He was a quick change artist, actor, and master of disguises, who was also adept at pickpocketing and sleight of hand. And Nimoy is the one that replaced him as sort of the same kind of character after, I think, 3 seasons. And here we have Greg Morris, who was Barney Collier. He was the electronics and mechanical genius, well-versed in building infrastructures and forgery. So he was the all-around tech guy. He even wrote a computer, or invented a computer way back then. And this guy I really liked, of course. Oh, shut up. Alexa's talking to me for some reason. Computer, stop. Part of my life. All right. Because the one downstairs, I have too many Alexas, and I can't call them all Alexas. So one I call computer, which is downstairs here, and every time I say the word computer that it happens to hear, or if it's on TV, she just decides to go into some idiotic discourse. Anyway, this is Peter Lupus. He played Willie Armitage, and he held the world record in weightlifting and was used as the muscle of the team, able to carry unusually heavy objects and easily rip doors off their hinges, including a vault in one of the hard-to-believe episodes. Got some fingerprints, and as I said, this is some cassette tape that, of course, I had because I have everything in this house. So this waterfall mechanism is really pretty cool, but it helps to have more hands. One to, let's put this down. One to actually hold the base, and then you saw it unfold. You don't necessarily need to see it fold back up, I guess. But it's can't even do it reaching around very well. Okay. Clearly this book is not meant for kids. All right. So that is it for dramas, which amazingly enough took a long time. I tried a variety of different things, as you can see. Anyway, and this frustrating hospital. So not that anyone cares, but this is a V-fold. I wanted it to be almost opening at a right angle here, but not entirely. These do have a tendency to sag, as you saw from my westerns. So I cut one on really heavy cardboard, but then decided that might be too heavy. So I used a lighter one, and it still leaned. And I think it's because, for some reason, this is too shallow of an angle. And yet, I don't understand why when I close the page, this first paper piece in front, it didn't glue quite right down here, which I thought was the problem. So I made the bold move of gluing after the fact the heavier cardboard one on and gluing it down, and it followed exactly the same path. And the problem is right there. It just does not seem to want to, it was ripping as it glued. And so I don't know what the problem is. So for right now, it just is annoying, and I can't redo it because, it's just This is for fun, remember? So since this is dramas, this whole page, I can leave both of these, illustrating the dramatic effect of building a pop-up in my life, or I can cut this front piece off. Any suggestions, including just give up this hobby? Anyway, that's my dramas. Hope you enjoyed.